you are the person that's been keeping track of all the gigafactories. You of most more than more people, most others, you actually have a really good sense of what's happening. I interviewed you about, I don't know, 6 months now, I think, and you gave me your forecast. You had ultra conservative, kind of like bull and super bull. Like I think you had six different segments of how closely you followed this. Has any of that projection changed at all based on what you've been hearing in the last year of what they have built? Are they behind in building gigafactories? And now that March 1st is coming and he's talking about this is going to be extreme scale, you know, so based on your forecast, are we behind?
I'd say no. I'd say we are exactly on pace with where we need to be. And it looks like we've got some announcements coming soon. And those are going to be kind of a big deal. And yeah, those are, if we see, just with the Tesla semi factory being
Yeah,
expanded a bit, that's going to be a big deal. Then we've got the work
Nevada.
being, well, in Nevada,
Yeah,
we've got the work being done to expand in Berlin. The clearings have all been done. They're working on early permitting processes there, and then yeah, hopefully that'll pick up. And then of course we've still had rumors about expansion in Shanghai, and then of course this week possibly Mexico, possibly a car factory in Mexico. We'll find out in a few hours, I suspect.
I guess what I'm surprised in is why are they? I'm glad that they're announcing one in Mexico, but what I really wanted to hear was a gigafactory in Asia, right? Somewhere, South Korea, Japan, or Indonesia that we've been hearing cotton heavy for, right? And of course, there's Canada. So if they announce two new gigafactories, but they're in Mexico and Canada, they're doing that because they want to take advantage of the EV credits. But what we really need is factories over there, right? The whole point was more near mining and also just closer to the right actual market.
Right. And the IRA credits mostly apply for things sold in America. They don't, turning the U.S. into an export hub wouldn't capture all the benefits that are out there. So that would be something that's, you know, needs to be considered in that.
Right.
One
Yeah,
thing
yeah,
I
yeah.
did, yeah,
So,
one. Oh,
mhm.
go ahead. I was going to say the other thing I did want to talk about on this, and we've got a little more flexibility on our schedule on this one at some point, is the big FSD news this week. Oh,
Yeah, well, I want to continue talking about the
sure,
gigafactory.
sure.
So you you had this schedule. So this is what they've been saying that 20 million cars need to be created, and then you were already saying that it doesn't need to be 20 gigafactories like people used to say because
Right,
they're taking the existing gigafactories and expanding it, and we don't need to hear them say there's going to be additional gigafactories. We can just hear them say they're going to expand it, right? And so
right.
as you go through that list of the things that they've done this year, they're on track. Do you think that they were delayed at all because of, let's say, why didn't we hear from Indonesia? Why haven't we heard from Canada? Why are we just hearing from Mexico? We've been hearing that there's been delays politically or something else like that. So are they behind? That's what I keep asking you.
Right. So Ford has 60 assembly plants to make 6 million cars. They make 100,000 cars per plant. Now, some of those are just, motor plants or something other than actual final assembly, but 100,000 cars a plant is dire. You've got to fix that. And we've seen that Tesla can take something like Giga Shanghai and crank out
Yeah,
over a million a year. They build different. They don't just use linear space, they use vertical space. They use cubic space in ways that other companies don't. So that adds to it and that makes it possible. So especially when we look at something like Cybertruck, getting rid
yeah,
of 100 robots shortens the assembly line. It makes it so that your factory is faster and shorter, and you can get more cars out of the same amount of space. So, yeah. So, are they behind? No, they are still cranking out huge numbers. The Model Y is already the best-selling car by revenue. It's likely to become the best-selling car by
yeah.
volume, perhaps this year. Maybe it already is. We don't know for sure. And then, yeah, and why haven't we seen more? Because they've got to get off their plate what's already on their plate before they can move forward with that.
What's your opinion on what we heard recently about Giga Shanghai, and they're shutting it down to improve the production line, because is this going to be the revised Model 3 already?
My guess is yes. It is long overdue to implement giga castings in the Model 3. That will
Yeah.
drop the cost significantly. That will reduce the floor
Wow.
space needed, reduce the robots needed, reduce the steps, improve quality control. Sandy Monroe from Monroe and Associates has always said the beauty of the mega casting is that you start with this nice solid platform, and the fewer pieces you have to build from there, the easier it is to maintain tolerance and keep tight panel gaps. Fit and finish goes up, quality goes up. It makes it a very predictable, easy build, and it just works.
Okay. And then is there a chance, because I was just talking to Dr. Know-it-all John Gibbs, and he was thinking that it'd be great if they just did one casting, front, rear, and the underbody. But Sandy says they're not going to do that. It's not worth it.
They are not, because the problem a lot of people forget about a casting is you have to be able to open it back up. And if you're casting interior pieces, opening it would rip it in half. So it's always going to have to be flat, bowls that you put together in order to cast it. And if you were to cast the middle section, then you don't have, then you've eliminated the need for a structural battery pack, and you're back to redundant structure, because the battery still needs structure. So it would make sense to, on the Cybertruck, for example, maybe put the B pillar assemblies into a casting. That could be something that works, but we don't know yet.
Okay. Awesome. And then, so you want to talk about FSD. So what is it about FSD?
Yeah,
The version 11.3 is coming out. It's supposed
yeah.
to come out this week. It's been delayed.
Well, not that. I was going to be talking about the big bad news about the recall. Oh no,
Oh
it's
my
so
gosh.
terrible. The stock took
Why
a
talk about
hammering because it's in the news and it's a big deal. The stock, if you look at the weekly chart, you can see where it went down, and then you look at the news and it's just, oh, this is, the government was asleep at the wheel, and it's like, were they? Because that's really, if you read past the headline, you'd know. And this
it? Yeah.
is taking advantage of investors who don't read past the headline. There are a lot of people, I called it in a tweet to Omar yesterday, I called it a investor coupon code to just get a small discount on the stock over
And then
nothing.
flip back right away.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and there
No, it's
and there are
true. Because
people
I
on
mean,
Twitter you've seen who've said, "Well, I own it. Does this mean I'm not going to have access to autonomy anymore?" It's like, oh my gosh, you people, it's very
yeah, yeah,
crazy.
no, no. What happened? Even the actual announcement itself, the actual NHTSA announcement, it actually says Tesla's going to solve this through an over-the-air update. But every article written out there, Laura Colodny had read her article, and it was doomsday. It was hilarious. It was like, you know, NHTSA, Tesla is going to be recalled, and it's going to affect all these cars, and it's ridiculous. And the very vast bottom line, it says, yeah, it's going to be over-the-air update. My own wife asked me about this, and
Yeah.
it's I always use her as my kind of gauge, that when customers are going, oh, have you heard about this recall? And you're right, it's just another public issue. But anyways, I mean,
To me,
it's
the
nothing.
biggest
It's nothing.
impact of it is the $250,000 in envelopes and letters it's going to cost. The stamps
Oh
alone are
yeah,
expensive, but that's it. It did, however, give us a small insight into how many vehicles have FSD.
yes. What was it? 300 plus thousand, right?
340,000 maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
But I wonder if that, I suspect that includes those on a subscription basis. So it doesn't
Right.
tell us how many have sold, but it does tell us, it gives us at least an idea how much fleet data we're getting.
Yeah, I have high hopes for FSD version 11. I really think it's going to be a big, big deal, and the reason I'm saying that, I mean, we all kind of think that this is going to be case single to stack and everything, but the reason I'm saying that is because it's going to have, once we see the parking lot, and I don't know if that's, have you heard yet? I don't know if it's part of the next release. It might come in later, but I've been saying that I think that the parking lot is doable. Okay. It's a summon and reverse summon. So you can leave your car, go into the store, and let it find its own parking. or you can summon it when you're coming out the store and let it come out and do that. I think it's going to go viral. I think this is the one thing that can really go viral, and people are going to see this and they're going to freak out. And it's actually safer because it's going very slow, and it needs to be able to not hit any person or any other car. But it's actually doable because it's within a certain map. And now that they're releasing this, you know how we said that neural nets is not only going to be just for driving, but it will be for navigation and for controls. That's what you'll need in a parking lot. The ability for the car to know, should I be reversing, or or do I want to go forward? That's the controls. And then navigation, it should memorize how cars drive within a certain location in that specific space. It's a parking lot. So I don't know. I'm quite excited about that one. I think that that could actually be the thing that goes viral.
Well, I'm still surprised that they haven't created a separate stack for the boring tunnel, because that seems like something
What?
they,
Oh,
well, yeah, because they could, it's in a closed environment. It doesn't need
it's
everything.
happening. It's going to
It
happen. Pretty
oh, it
obvious.
will. And I'm sure the reason they're holding off is because they believe once general intelligence is accomplished, it will be able to handle anything, including a tunnel. But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's very obvious they're going to do it for the boring tunnel. But why haven't they done it yet? That's you're asking
Right.
them,
That's what I'm asking
because
is
it's pretty should be pretty straightforward.
I would think so. I would think so. And as more boring tunnels are completed, I think we'll see it. And there's proposals in a lot of cities, and there's approvals in a number of cities. So I think we'll see more of it moving forward. But again, if general intelligence is accomplished, it's solved as well.
What do you mean by general intelligence?
I just mean if the AGI is if FSD level 5 is accomplished, it will work anywhere,
Oh,
including in
yeah,
the
yeah.
tunnel. Yeah.
Gotcha. No, this is low hanging fruit. They will definitely do. That's another interesting thing, right? It'll be autonomous, but yeah, it's
Right.
it's not going
We'll
to be
get
it's not
there.
going to be big news. Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll
we'll
get
get
there.
there. In terms of factories, what are your two candidates?
Well, I mean, I'm only basing it on the rumors. Every time we've heard a rumor, it happens. And so Indonesia and Canada very likely going to happen. They're, they've had many, many meetings. At one point, what, a month ago, every single day, the Indonesian government kept coming out talking about it, right? I think they're just in the final kind of throes of little tiny details, but I think it's pretty obvious it's going to happen, right? So it just doesn't. I think it's very straightforward. It's going to happen.
Do you think Indonesia makes sense, though? Now, I know why the government ministers would announce it every day. It's aspirational, and they really want it to happen. That doesn't
Yeah.
always translate direct. I mean, there have been a lot of rumors. I mean, the Tesla phone was a rumor every day for a
Uh,
year, but
this is different. I think when you've got a government employee ministers talking about it, I think it makes a ton of sense. So number one, one of the top the Tesla shorts, the number one argument that they have is that we're too dependent on China. So Jim Chanos was debating Ross Gerber, and his point was simply that 40% of all Tesla's revenue comes from Giga Shanghai. At any point, they can shut that down. I don't want to put my money in something that is very high risk. It's all basically a Chinese kind of China dependent kind of business. And there's some truth to that. I mean, obviously, when there was COVID shutdown, we got affected because that's where the bulk of the cars are being made. So what Tesla needs to do immediately is create a second factory that's in the Asian region. So Indonesia, please make it happen. They got minerals and mines that they can do there. If you got the government support from that kind of country, then that's where you get you don't have the red tape that you would get from Giga Berlin. I think
sure,
that was a mistake. Uh, but they need to do that. And then Warren Redlich keeps talking about Japan, right? Japan being the
right.
third largest car manufacturing. And then I just saw a comment from somebody earlier here from our group here saying that the thing about that's Grace. I think Grace said something like here. Grace said, "Hometown Toyota has government first dibs on any EV plant in Japan, especially ahead of Tesla." So that part I also have been wondering about. Like, would Japan actually let Tesla have one? Panasonic has huge deals with Tesla already, so that's why it might make sense. But Toyota,
When I made
Japan and Toyota, they're like this, right? So
when I made my list of, I asked my viewers to tell me where I should look at for factories, and I came up with 24 candidate countries, and I ranked them. And Japan actually, by the spreadsheet, came out as number one on my list as well, because
okay,
getting into Japan is difficult for a foreign builder. But if it's a domestic foreign company, that might undo some of that advantage. They've got massive technological advantage in auto manufacturing. They've got the skill base, the labor base. They've got the ports are all running masterfully, and it's a right-hand drive country, so it could become the export hub for right-hand drive. The labor is high. That's the only thing going against it. But again, these are mostly robot-built vehicles. I don't see why that would necessarily be an issue. So I think it would work. And then number 2 on my list, according to the spreadsheet, was Canada. So, because again, they've got experience building cars. They're in the free trade agreement zone. There's a lot of talent there that doesn't necessarily want to relocate to other countries.
There's only one criteria that matters. It's minerals.
Well, Japan does not have minerals. That is an
How
absolute fact. But they
did it
still
get up
build
there? Yeah.
a cajillion cars. So they are a very
Yeah, but
big.
this is a different kind of cars.
This is a different kind of car. This is a different kind of car. And I don't see Japan as necessarily having an automatic huge advantage over a lower cost country like Indonesia necessarily. And there are other countries with some vehicle experience in the region. Korea also, of course, a big player. But again, mineral deficient a bit in that regard in terms of both lithium and the other ones. But also to remember is if we're moving towards LFP batteries, all we need is stuff that's readily available. It's the nickel and the cobalt that's harder to acquire, and those are going to be coming from, nickel comes from everywhere, but cobalt really only comes from the Congo.
Yeah, lithium can be everywhere. So, have you actually published this analysis of yours? It sounds really good. I mean, we got to
Which
see
one?
this.
The country by country one?
Right, ranking gigafactory
Yeah.
potentials and country
Oh,
by
yeah.
country.
That was I did that probably 6-8 months ago. It was
I didn't see this. Is it a
several
spreadsheet?
people watched it. I'll
Oh,
get
it's a
you some
video.
links. Yeah, it's a video.
Got it.
It was 2 videos, but yeah, it was pretty
sounds
fun.
like a
I could revisit it.
document
That could
that
be
you
one
could-
to
yeah.
to do again, update it,
You
and,
should
and
create a
see what it
small
looks like.
table. I'm the master of lists. Give it to me. I'll create a list out of this thing and have it
Yeah,
ranking.
yeah. It was a fun one. It was a fun one. So tonight on my on my second channel, My Tesla Live. And by the way, for those tuning in, this is simulcast for some reason on My Tesla Weekend and on Tesla on Herbert's channel, Brighter with Herbert, and link in my description, of course. But tonight on my second channel, My Tesla Live, I'm going to be going over the whole union thing because there is
Oh, okay.
a rumor that Tesla is deeply anti-union, and it is a bit unfounded in my view. But we shall get into the details of it, and I'll
So
explain why.
the high level is that there was folks that want to do union in Buffalo, right?
Hmm. Yes,
The Buffalo,
that's right. Giga New
not
York.
Giga Buffalo, but Giga New York, and then they fired them the next day, and then Tesla came out with a statement.
Yeah. So there was 27 people let go. Of them, one was pro-union. One was in the union movement. So that doesn't already there's some questions there. But these are all labelers. This is a job that they know is temporary, and labelers have been laid off en masse over the past
That's a
year.
good sign, right?
It is a good
You're talking
sign.
about this is a FSD
Yeah.
labelers, right? These are
Yeah.
labelers of the vision, what
Yes,
things are
when
being
something
and
comes in and the AI looks at it and says, I'm not sure what it is, it gets bumped over to a labeler who says, I'm a human, I know it's this. And they're saying, well, we don't like that it tracks our productivity. Right, but that's the only way to track what you're doing is to see if you're actually labeling stuff. And we don't like that there's no job security. Right, there's no job security. It is hopefully something that goes away industry wide within the next year or two. And yeah, the fact that 27 people were let go and one of them was in the was a union organizer is,
Okay, I didn't know that part.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's the
So
high
James
level.
Dalma, yeah, James Dalma, who's an expert in AI, said that anytime you hear that labelers have been fired, that's great news because that's the whole point. Whereas that you're
Yeah.
trying to get the system, the neural nets and the software to be able to figure this out themselves. And so it used to be that labelers, they had thousands of labelers would do that, and then they would then be backed up by the software. And now it's flipped. The system, neural
Yeah.
net and software would actually do the labeling, and then they just using these humans to do kind of a QA on it. And
Yeah.
if they're being accurate, the more accurate that the system is, you don't need the QA anymore. So this is actually
Right.
good news that that happens. Yeah.
It's absolutely great news. And this is a job no one would actually want. It sounds very tedious and monotonous and like the sort of thing where you go home and you can't sleep well because you've got busy dreams where you're still labeling. And it just sounds. It sounds like the sort of job you would want to see go away. We could increase the number of people who move shopping carts around if we got rid of those little carts that automatically, the remote ones that push them. But do we really want to go back to that? That seems unnecessary to me. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's, you know, that's what the whole point of the autonomy is. Imagine if Tesla drivers tried to get a union contract that said we don't need we need a guarantee that FSD is not going to take our job once it gets here. Come on, man, that's not
Well,
going to
one of
happen.
the benefits I think that ChatGPT has taken off so much, there's this wonderful analysis of this graph that showed that ChatGPT, in terms of the number of users, in the first day and the first week or the first month of kind of launching to the public, it's a skyrocket up, right? Millions of people set up an account immediately. It's the number one. It's beaten any other technology or software, and the number of people who adopted a certain thing, how quickly it did it. This was crazy. And so obviously, it's hit the society and everybody knows that this has happened and they know how incredible it is. And so now people are realizing AI is here.
Yeah,
It's happening. And
it
so
is here.
it
Yeah.
then it'll then feed into FSD. People then realize, okay, computers can drive a car. That's literally 4 years ago. I was in a plane, and my seatmate was saying to me, "It will never happen in my lifetime. It will never happen in my lifetime." Right? Robotaxi or autonomous driving. And then now it's like people are probably at this point going, maybe it can happen in my lifetime. And then in a few years, it can happen in the next year.
Well, and
So
remember,
I think that's a good thing.
everything's impossible until it isn't. Lighter than air travel is impossible, but yet it moved so quickly that Orville Wright got to meet Neil Armstrong. That's
And
huge.
did you see the
Or no, they were alive
yeah,
at the same time. I'm sorry. It was
a
it was
newspaper article.
Lindbergh that got to meet Neil. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, there was a newspaper article that was published, and then it said that it'll never happen in a millennial. And then
Oh,
literally 2 months later, they had their first flight. It's exactly
well,
what's going to happen.
James Dalma. So for those who don't know, James Dalma is very smart guy. Talks about AI a lot on a lot of channels, including Dave Lee, and he's just so sharp. And he was saying how voice to text was impossible, and then once one group cracked it, everybody cracked it within months. ChatGPT could absolutely pass the Turing test with no hesitation. And if you look at it, you can use it. You can use it to write code. My kids use it to come up with D&D campaigns. I asked it, what's the best EV? And it gave me a list of 5 that I didn't necessarily agree with. And then I said, tell me again, but in the style of Shakespeare. And it did. And I made a video about it, and it was so unpopular you wouldn't believe. But it was still pretty interesting and amazing to me, at least. And yeah, these things, FSD, the difference, and you and I have talked about this, the difference between solving chess and solving Go versus solving driving is that chess and Go have rules and driving is all about exceptions. That just makes the problem bigger, not impossible. If it's a thing that can be done, AI will get there eventually. We just don't know when.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, if humans can figure out how to drive, and I'm not even talking humans, I'm talking teenagers.
right? Well, you've seen. Have you ever seen the footage of an orangutan driving a golf cart?
I'm not. Okay,
Oh,
so they
he's
could do
he's
that too
very
then?
competent and capable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh, so if this is not as hard to. It's about vision. Yeah. Yeah. And I think
yeah,
it's sooner than we realize. It's better than we realize, and Elon already knows it's going to happen. So you have to kind of.
yeah, yeah.
I'm pausing a bit because I know that he's. Everybody keeps thinking he's late, but it's what you just said earlier. He's late until he's not late.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
like he said about SpaceX, we take the impossible and turn it into late.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Brian. I appreciate this.
Yeah. Well,
This was
before we go,
fun.
I did
We'll do
I
this
did
again.
want to mention the Investor Day thing we got going on.
Yeah.
The In March we've got Investor Day. We've got an event, a pre-game at noon at Southeast Metro Park. That's going to have Alien Space will be there. I've got some
In
drone
Austin.
pilots coming
Yeah.
in
And you'll
Austin.
will you live stream this so we can all watch it who's not going?
That is possible. We're figuring out the logistics at this point and seeing how that's going to work. But Alien Space will be there, and a number of others. I've got some drone pilots coming. I've got some YouTubers coming, and more announcements will be made. And the tickets are free. There's pizza, there's giveaways, there's all that. And if anybody wants
So
to support,
if you're in Austin during that time, go visit them.
yeah, and if you know anybody who wants to be a speaker, they are welcome to reach out to me on Twitter at 4K Podcast, and we'll
Perfect.
get them added and all that. So yeah, this was a lot of fun. And yeah, thank you, Herbert, and to my viewers on my channel. I appreciate you guys being here too. And yeah, thanks everybody for hanging out
Thanks,
with
everybody.
us.
Bye bye.